Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. Dima was lucky to be born into not only a wealthy, but also a truly loving family. Maria Olegovna and Pyotr Sergeyevich did not want for their only son. Dad, as a businessman, does not deny his child in anything, but even this did not spoil the boy. He never boasted about money or put himself above others. His parents sometimes even insisted on accepting an expensive birthday or New Year present from them. And so Dmitry grew up, went to university, graduated on his own, and now works in good positions in his father's company. No, not because his father put him on the payroll, as is usually the case in successful families. He was invited to both domestic and foreign companies. After all, the guy has a red diploma, has taken many courses to improve his skills, and in general, responsibly approached the work. Pyotr Sergeyevich always dreamed that his son would continue his business, and Dmitry did not want to upset his beloved parent. By the age of 30, the young, rich, and talented businessman had the whole package, which is required for an enviable groom, and that included cars and apartments and bank accounts. The only problem was that he could not find a suitable bride. Girls hung on his neck as soon as the guy asked them out and drove up to the driveway in luxury cars. They didn't notice anything but his money. But Dmitry never considered a one-night stand. Dim. So what? A little mercenary, but her figure is a bomb. Oleg was looking at a photo of Irina Kuklo, once again in Ufa, who did not give a pass to his friend Oleg. Stop talking nonsense. I myself have met with such. Bored, my God. Dmitry twisted his face, showing his dissatisfaction. I do meet. I had such a great time last week. I felt sorry for him the day before. Oleg closed his eyes, remembering pleasant moments from past dates. Yeah, but I want a family, and everyone just sees my wallet. They're me. Have normal girls all died out? Dim. You're just too worried. You money, you beauty in return. This is the XXI century. Suddenly, we are all consumers. There is a demand, there will be a supply. Oleg tried to seem smarter than he is. Therefore, his words were often more like quotations from some paid nonsense articles. In general, Dmitry always wanted to set me on the right path. But in his second year at the university, he gave up the idea. They had known each other since kindergarten. They went to school together. Oleg, like no one else, knew Dima and all his ups and downs. But to change the ardent womanizer to stop sleeping with everything that moves, even a true gentleman, Dmitry, was not able to. For a long time, the guys were discussing what is more important for a 30-year-old businessman, the family, or all the same, a beautiful girl nearby. They did not come to a common denominator. But Oleg unexpectedly offered a good option, how to meet the one from the lips of Casanova. To hear it was strange, but still. Dim. You know, my mother often arranges an exhibition almost every 2 or 3 months. Oleg started from afar, but I know. So what of it? Dmitry did not really understand what his friend was getting at. And what does this have to do with exhibitions? So, last week my mother, after another event, tried to sell me the daughter of one of her acquaintances. Intelligent, wealthy family, all things. But I don't really care about family and kids right now. I promised I'd meet her. But you can cover for me and go to the meeting. Oleg stared at the potential groom with hope in his eyes. I have a picture of her, by the way. I'll tell her that I'm sick and recommend that you go to the restaurant with you. The table is already booked, so it is unlikely she will refuse. Oleg brilliantly planned how to get away from himself unnecessary candidate. Your mother. Do not take care of her. Dmitry complained about the undignified behavior of Oleg. Why does she stick me with her girls? I should deal with mine. One needs a new phone, the other wants to go to the sea. Where else do I go? And my wife wants me to be completely, and catcher beats me. Oleg wrapped his 2 arms around his neck, imitating strangulation, and laughed out loud. And why am I friends with you? Sometimes I think I cannot find an answer. Dima really both loved and hated Oleg. But to be honest, the idea of meeting an interesting, intelligent girl appealed to him. If this is not a boor can not appreciate a good candidate, then why should he refuse a nice meeting? The next day, Oleg asked his mother more about this mysterious stranger. The woman glowed with happiness when she saw her son's interest in a worthy companion. However, when he told her that it was for Dima, his mother rolled her eyes, but said that she had expected something like that. But the woman was glad that at least Dmitri is eager to have a family and children. Oleg and Dima's family had been friends for many years, and the parents of both of them saw the boys as their own children. After talking to his mother, Oleg called his friend and shared everything you saw. The girl's name was Vika. She was 24, graduated from some prestigious art department, lived abroad for a couple of years, wants to get married as soon as possible. Basically, Dima liked what he heard. The boy thanked his friend for his help and information, and for Vika's phone number. Dmitri did not pull the cat by the tail and immediately called the girl. She, of course, was a little surprised, but only because Oleg did not warn her, as promised, that he could not go to the restaurant and that his friend would replace him. After a couple of minutes of pleasant conversation, however, the young people relaxed and calmed down as they caught the general wave. And you're even prettier than Oleg. Vika was looking at the pictures of Dima on her smartphone, which he sent online. Thank you. You are also a beauty so sophisticated, and your profession is quite interesting. Creative people attract like a magnet. Dima spoke from his heart. He really liked the girl, both in communication and in appearance. That it is. Vika laughed angrily. The newlywed couple chatted on the phone nonstop for a full 2 o'clock. To both of them, it seemed like a good sign and the beginning of something bright and lasting. They agreed that Dima would pick Vika up tomorrow at 6 in time for dinner. In the evening, Dima returned home in high spirits, and his parents called to say they would stop by for an hour. The boy was always happy to see his relatives. Pyotr Sergeyevich and Maria Olegovna piled into their son's apartment with huge bags full of groceries. Her son told her that you would be outraged. But is it possible to change your mother's mind? The father threw up his hands. Yes, Mom. Where is so much? I'm hardly ever home. Everything will go to waste. Dima usually had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't know anything at work. You have to eat right. You'll ruin your stomach. Who's going to make you chicken soup? Your mother's far away, and you don't have a fiancé in sight. I guess we'll die without grandchildren. Oh, you should have felt sorry for us, Dima. Mother had a heart attack. What caused the smiles on the faces of her men? You go ahead, Masha. Do not overdo it. And you, son. And then really make us happy with the good news. Peter Sergeyevich looked hopefully at his child. Dima did not want to tell about Vika, but nevertheless decided to tell his parents about the upcoming date. Maria Olegovna thought a little. After all, the girl's family seemed familiar to her. She asked her husband if it was not the swindlers who had something to do with the story of the sale of a copy instead of the original of a famous painting. Peter, however, remembered nothing of the kind. The woman calmed down. How many daughters named Vika among the artists? Mom, Aunt Luda recommended her. Dmitri revealed a secret. How did he know about the girl? Ah, I see. Then surely a good girl. And lying down, she must have been sewn by Luda. He was the first one who wanted to marry her. Maria laughed angrily, knowing that her friend felt strongly about her son. The nerd doesn't miss a single short skirt. Well, yes, I did. But we called each other, and I really liked Vika. I think I got lucky. Soon you will dance at my wedding. Dima's eyes shone. My father heard. Gifts are ready. The son is getting married. Maria pushed her husband on the shoulder and then began to hug her son. Not yet married, but I will not drag long. I promise. Dmitri was not particularly happy that he blurted out about the wedding. Now his parents wouldn't leave him alone. And so it happened. They just stepped out the door, and Pyotr Sergeyevich had already called and started to ask what his son wanted as a gift. The boy refused all the proposed options, such as a house. a yacht, a cafe, a vacation in the Maldives. It was all too much for him. All the more, Vika also came from a rich family, and Dima did not want their family to be built solely on his parents' money. He earned decent money himself and could provide his wife with everything she needed. And Vika, as he was sure, was not a hunter for material wealth, but a person of art. The evening of the date came. Dmitry prepared thoroughly. He bought a magnificent bouquet, put on a beautiful suit, and went to conquer the lady of his heart. "You look beautiful." The guy looked at the charming young girl in amazement. "Thank you. So do you." Vika also appreciated the appearance of the beau, who was even better than in the photo. The young people reached the table and sat down in anticipation of the exquisite food. Confusion vanished like the light of day, and their conversation passed so unobtrusively and easily, as if they knew each other. They had known each other for at least 5 years. Dima asked her about her hobbies, favorite countries, books, and everything they normally talk about at the first meeting. "Vika, do you like children? And in general, how many children do you want in your marriage?" Dmitry asked a very important question for him. "I love them very much. I want 3, to be honest. 2 boys and a girl princess. My brothers would keep her safe. It's nice to have someone who can intercede." Vika also noted that she had always dreamed of having a brother or sister, but life turned out differently. "That sounds great. I'd settle for 3. Dmitry supported his companion's idea. He wouldn't mind getting a real sibling himself. Of course, the guy has a best friend, Oleg, who is also like a sibling already. But still, this is a little different. Dima would love to share all his worries and plans with someone who would never betray him. Blood brothers usually become the closest of friends after all. That's what Dima thought. As he noticed, Vika was of the same opinion. After all, she too was an only child in the family. The date was going well. Truly delicious food. A beautiful companion at her side. Dmitry felt as if he was plunged into a fairy tale. For a long time, the young businessman had not felt such a surge of energy and motivation. He wanted to prove to the girl that he was worthy of her hand and heart, and show that he was ready to get married and create a full-fledged cell of society. However, Vika was ahead of Dima and was the first to talk about marriage. "Dima, how many months or years after we met would you like to get married?" Girl blinked her eyes, but somehow pretentiously. There was something artificial in her words, as if it was not just a question that came to mind, but something in advance with. From the list of must-haves, what to ask on a first date, Dima decided not to pay attention to his intuition. After all, sometimes people behave strangely out of embarrassment. "I would marry in 3 to 4 months. Honestly, if we're right for each other, then why drag it out?" "I agree." The guy gave his companion the confident look of a real man who wanted marital happiness. "I agree. I think so too. I don't understand why we have to date for 10 years. What's the point of getting married afterwards? And as long as they are young and successful, it's not a sin to go to the registry office." Vika glowed. She really liked Dima's answer. "By the way, my mother remembered yesterday that she had heard somewhere about your family. Or maybe she got confused. Does your name often appear in the pages of newspapers and magazines?" The guy smiled, but noticed how quickly Vicky's expression changed, and was a little taken aback. "No, my family is well off, but not as famous as yours. Your father often appears on the covers of business magazines. I don't follow, of course, but I know and read something." The girl changed the subject, and Dima once again dismissed unnecessary doubts from his mind. The evening ended on a beautiful note, with a delicious dessert. Dima invited Vika on another date, and she agreed without any hesitation. They liked each other very much, so why not continue their relationship? Dmitry took his companion home and kissed her hand. He did not want to rush into intimacy, even though the girl caused him all the necessary feelings for passion. But Vika is not just a girl from the club or social networks, where every other at the sight of a luxury car, Dima is ready to accept him with open arms. At home in bed, Vika was completely different. At home, Dmitry called Oleg to share his impressions of the first meeting. His friend listened attentively and could not rejoice that he had pleased him so much. Oleg even joked that after such stories about Vika, he already wondered if he was right to give a valuable specimen to Dima. Yes, you would have broken her heart. She deserves more than just a good night's entertainment. Dmitry cut off the sarcastic jokes of the interlocutor on the other end of the line and made it clear that he did not want to hear anything like that in the direction of his new girlfriend. So you are already officially dating. That was fast. But of course I'm glad. Brother, you're good. Oleg praised his friend. There is a clue. And what is the delay? While I'm stomping in place, someone else will come and take a worthy bride. Dima laughed angrily. He imagined a knight in armor from another country coming on horseback to fight him for the heart of a beautiful lady. Dmitry was extremely romantic without a relationship, and when a girl like Vika came along, he was like a hero from a melodrama. Oleg always warned his friend that girls do not always appreciate two positive guys. But what could he do if Dima did not have the slightest bit of negative traits? A few more days passed. The newly minted couple called each other every now and then. During the day, Vika talked about her successes in art, and Dmitry tried to explain the intricacies of doing business. When once again, he was chatting with his girlfriend, the director of the company, Pyotr Sergeyevich, also his father, came into his office. The guy apologized to Vika and hung up. Seeing his father's shining eyes, he realized that the conversation would be pleasant. "Dad, what is the new deal you made?" Dmitry could observe such a good mood of his father whenever big contracts were signed. "No, son, I've been looking at your work results for the last few days. Thought you'd quit the projects, get yourself a girlfriend. But no, it's like you've been working even harder on your work." "That's nice." The father patted his son on the shoulder and sat down next to him. "It is so, Vika. I am very inspired. I want to provide us with a decent future without poverty. For that, you have to plow and plow." Dima grew up, smiling, remembering his girlfriend. "And how did we raise such a good guy? I can't believe it. Money didn't spoil you at all. You were always too independent, too hardworking." Since childhood, the head of the company threw up his hands in bewilderment. What about money? Money is paper. The main thing is the right values. Family, children. The son even more pleased his father. With these words, Peter Sergeyevich handed Dima some important documents and left the office. At this time, the family of Vicky was in chaos. The girl's mother Galina and father Andrei were furious. They wondered how Vika had agreed to meet Dmitry instead of Oleg. The father yelled like crazy. Vika only rolled her eyes and fought him off. After the great scandal, in which the reputation of their family was very badly damaged, Vicky's parents tried every now and then to cover up their failure. If not for the big money and connections, then they would all be sitting now somewhere far away from the capital in not the most pleasant conditions from the prison of his father. And the girl's mother was saved by a colleague of Andrei. However, the price of release deprived them of the opportunity to continue to lead a life without poverty. Money was barely enough to pay for expensive water at home, food, and transportation. And one day, Galina came up with a great plan to successfully marry her daughter. Why? She is good-looking, intelligent, and educated, and in character is not far from her parents. Vika only at first glance seemed harmless and too correct. "Papa, what can I do if Oleg does not want to get married? He has one thing on his mind, and it is certainly not a serious attitude in marriage." Vika explained to her father why she had to deviate from a well-prepared plan. "Not good, my daughter. Not a good mother turns out just like that." In front of this Lyudmila-style beat, guest, adjusted meetings, you don't appreciate anything. Nasty girl. Andrew clearly could not calm down. Galina really spent a lot of effort and time to find a suitable family to marry. The task was not an easy one. After all, they needed people who were not aware of the shame and crime of their family. Oleg was just the most suitable option, since his parents had no way of knowing about Andrei and his wife's past. This information was confirmed by various checks by Galina herself. Yes, Dima is also a rich man. His father is in the news all the time. What is not your fiancé? Vika no longer knew what arguments to use to defend herself. His mother will remember our failure 100%. I know her. She's a real piece of work. She knows about the incident. I bet she knows, maybe indirectly, but she does. Galina tapped her long fingernails irritably on the table. Dima told his parents about me and my family. If they knew something, they would have forbidden him to talk to me right away. So there was nothing to worry about. Everyone has long forgotten everything. Vika went over to her mother and hugged her. Oh, I do not know, honey. I have a bad feeling. By the way, you have already asked him for money for repairs. Cars can't even be paid for. Galina reminded Vika of her direct responsibilities in their operation. Not yet, but I think there won't be a problem with it. He's already in love with me. The girl had no doubts about it, so boldly declared her success. Then also asked me for season tickets to the golf club. And my colleagues are asking where I am. Why did I quit? I can't say that I have nothing to pay for a membership. Andrew grimaced at the nasty thoughts. Yes, Vicky's family still had their business, but all the money went to the man who saved the poor crooks from imprisonment. This man had sucked every last drop out of them, but they dared not refuse him. Contracts are contracts. This is a very serious man, and he is not to be trifled with. Tonight we meet, and everything will happen. Don't worry. Vika persuaded her parents to rely on her, and she herself was tired of wearing clothes she bought 100 years ago. Although they were branded, but from vintage collections. Once Vika was even almost caught in a lie. At one of the exhibitions, she got into a conversation with girls her age from wealthy families and their outfits. So his companions wondered why Vika was wearing an outfit from a show 7 years ago. She had to wriggle out and say that this dress is brought to her, and she wears it only on special occasions. The girls looked at each other, scornful of this story. But no longer Vika was determined to live in poverty and drink coffee from a cheap diner. Instead of real strong coffee from a prestigious coffee shop, she thought of everything and finally went on a date with Dmitri, who could not wait to meet him. The young people talked for a long time about some distant things like business, the news, and next week's weather. Vika couldn't wait to move the conversation in the right direction. The girl started from afar, so as not to stare so hard. Daddy crashed the car a little. So sad. Not for the money, of course. It's just that he was growing up, worried that he was getting old, and was already losing his concentration. Vika lowered her gaze, showing concern over her father's condition. What kind of nonsense is this? The car will be fixed, and Dad better go to the doctor, or your mother to fly somewhere to rest, to get his thoughts, and with renewed vigor to work. You're right, Dima. And maybe we'll take Dad's car and fix it as a surprise. He'll be happy to know that my boyfriend cares so much about our family. All that kind of attention is more precious than anything else. The girl stared intently at her bow. That's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? I'll get right on that today. Just did not let on that you will help me get the car out. Dmitri looked questioningly at his beloved. Of course, you're my best. I am very lucky with you. By the way, it was my father's birthday a month ago. I wanted to give him a year's membership to the golf club, but I didn't get around to it. Vika casually threw in an ambiguous phrase, well, give gifts now at any time is appropriate. Honey, especially your precious parents. Will you pass me the salt, please? Dima did not pay attention to what she said about the season ticket. Here you go. Vika irritably almost threw salt to the guy. I did something wrong. Honey, what are you doing? Oh, sorry. Yes, I remembered that the courier yesterday broke my parcel and somehow got angry again. It just came over me. Never mind. Vika made up an excuse and decided to better control herself and her emotions. And what did you order? Let me tell you. Dmitri, with tenderness in his voice, offered to help his chosen one. It would be very nice, but it's only possible to order in my name. So Vika lied masterfully and didn't even feel an ounce of shame. Then you order and I'll pay. How much is your mystery package worth? The guy smiled sincerely. He liked wooing Vika. All that girly stuff made him excited. He was sure she had ordered some other feminine trinkets or cosmetics, so he did not want to tell. Thank you, Dima. Are you the best? Vika named an amount equivalent to the amount of a golf club membership. Dmitri transferred the money to her card. Mission accomplished. The girl was proud of herself and already eager to share her success with her parents. 2 months passed. Dmitri regularly unlocked Vika's money for one thing and another. The guy did not see anything criminal in this. His girlfriend was from a wealthy family and was used to having decent sums spent on her. He was happy to work, sometimes even without days off, to please his beloved with new gifts. Today, Dmitri had an appointment at the other end of the city. The young businessman was in a hurry to a restaurant. He got out of the car, tucked away in his papers that he had not had time to look at in the office. Suddenly, he bumped into another man. "Excuse me," the stranger blurted out in the thinnest voice. "That's all right." Dmitri did not have time to continue the sentence, as he was taken aback and confused. He was struck by the young beauty absolutely would not accept us dressed in tiny polka dots. The girl was clearly not rich and too modest. "Can I help you with something?" The culprit of the fall of the securities began frantically picking them up from the sidewalk. "No need." I myself, Dmitri, like a boy, just stood there and did not know what to do and how to continue the conversation. By the time he came to his senses, the beauty was already out of the guy's sight, and the young businessman still stood perplexed. He had never experienced anything like this. It was as if a lightning bolt pierced him through the stranger's voice. She looked about 20 years old. It stuck firmly in his head. Dmitri began to come to his senses and turned around. No one was in sight anymore. In a meeting with his partners, all he did was think about that stranger. Colleagues interrupted him every time they needed to hear his opinion. Someone even advised Dima to sleep more so that he wouldn't be so distracted. They knew the guy's hard-working nature and that he often overworked. But no one guessed that the reason for his absent-mindedness might have been the young woman who had appeared and disappeared overnight. Nothing could get her out of his head. Even messages from Vicky no longer seemed as important or necessary to him. The world turned upside down. "I met a girl the other day." Dmitri decided to share the recent incident with his friend Oleg. "Klop, bro, decided to follow in my footsteps. What about Vika? You said she was your fate, destiny, and leg, and already choose a ring for her." Oleg could not contain his sarcasm. "I love Vika, I guess, but that girl, I'm confused." Dmitri really did not understand what happened to him and why his heart was pounding so much. "I know you, Dima. You better forget about the stranger. Otherwise, you'll blame yourself later. You're too righteous. You don't know how to spin 2 or 3. Marry Vika and don't make it up." Oleg gave sound advice as he realized the responsibility for his friend who has led him astray. "Are you right? How can I do this to Vika? She is wonderful. This girl, I don't even know. I'm glad I talked to you." It was like a stone lifted from my shoulders. Dmitri exhaled and finally pulled himself together. "That's right. Let me help you choose a ring. Better take a girlfriend, and she will advise what the girls are now to their liking." Oleg once again met with another doll. "Okay, take your passy and wait for you in the center tonight." Friends arranged to meet. Dima had no more thoughts about the stranger. He was totally concentrated on proposing to his beloved. Vika was already making preparations, only not for a proposal, but for a life without poverty. She kept looking at posh resorts and houses that she would buy immediately after Andrei's wedding. And Galina also had a claim to Dmitri's money, but they decided not to rush yet, and to wait for the official engagement. But somehow their souls were not calm, especially Galina's. She kept thinking that Maria Olegovna, Dima's mother, was bound to sniff out traces of the past. Their family even dreamed that Maria came to their house and made a grand scandal. The woman jumped up in the middle of the night, all in a sweat, and could not. Her husband spent another 3 hours trying to calm her down, but all in vain. Feelings spilled over to Andrew. The man succumbed to the influence of his wife and constantly played havoc with his daughter. Only one Vika did not have any doubts about the success of her future marriage. She even planned to have a baby on their wedding night, to tie Dima down even more. The parents, of course, supported such a favorable initiative, but there was no proposal yet. Dmitry was just doing that. So let's see what you have here. Oleg's friend Irina stands in the jewelry store looking like a Hollywood star, choosing an engagement ring for Vicky. Baby, you pick. The most beautiful. I'll buy you the same. Oleg kissed the girl on the cheek. Yes, you have just an idol. Dmitry noticed a light in his friend's eyes in relation to Irina. It was different. He even held her hand. Dima thought this was a very sweet and amusing fact. He smirked at Oleg, looking down, and asked what was the matter. But the guy didn't answer anything. He only thought that if suddenly this Ira could conjure the catcher and he would finally fall in love, it was the birth of light feelings that Dmitry noticed on the face of his friend. I like this ring. It will be perfect for an engagement ring. What stone is it? Irina demonstrated on her hand a diamond worth several 1 million R. The lip is not stupid, kid. Oleg grinned, looking at the price. We'll take it. Dmitry trusted the girl's choice. He did not spare any money for Vicky because he works to provide for her and their future family. Oleg and Irina left immediately after the purchase, and Dmitry decided to stop by a travel agency to choose a surprise trip to the Côte d'Azur for his bride. How can I help you? The office consultant turned to the office of the guy Dmitry again, as if he was poured with ice water, and then thrown into a cauldron of red-hot oil. He froze in surprise. You? Managed only to utter a dumbfounded customer. Oh, excuse me again. I am such a clumsy stranger who ran into him on the road. Sitting. Now in front of him is just as beautiful and appealing. Nothing. The guy could barely get the words out of his mouth. You wanted to pick up a tour. Have a seat with your wife on the flight. Any kids? 1. 2. The girl with a name on her name tag, Alina, began to perform her direct task of selling tours. I am not married. Dmitry said it so confidently, as if he did not want this pretty office employee to think for even a second that he is not free. Then fly with a friend with your family. Sorry, I'm flying alone. One guy stirred and didn't know what to say. Which direction do you prefer? The conversation was too tense. Dmitry could not get his thoughts together. He wanted to take Aliona's number and call her as soon as he left this office. Aliona, in turn, tried to perform her duties to the best of her ability. After all, she was lucky to find such a good job. She had no money even for a rented apartment. She lived in a communal apartment in one room with another woman. And this job allowed her to save money to move to a more comfortable place, and her sick mother needed money for medicine. Every week it seemed to Alina that work at the travel agency was her lifeline. Could you send me by mail or text me a suitable option? Dmitry figured out how to find a way to connect with this nice girl. Sure, here's our card. The answer is either me or my colleague Natalia. Alina handed the guy a card with a number on it. Can I have your personal number? I want you to be the one to find me the perfect vacation. Dmitry realized that if not now, he would never decide to be more active. My number, but do not worry, I will not bother you with calls. I'm just a very busy man. You and I could work together. I'll pay a little more than the amount of the tour. The guy threw in all the trump cards he could play. No, there's no need to overpay. All right, here's my number. I promise to personally find you a hotel. But could you write for it? A good review of my work in this little book. Aliona whispered to her client to help her get a bonus without any problems. Dmitry was surprised that the girl didn't want to take his money. Any other would have gladly accepted such a generous tip. However, Aliona preferred the recall to legally and honestly receive a premium. At the end of the month, the guy became even more interested in the young employee, and no matter how hard he tried. But no more conversation with Oleg or meetings with Vika could not get Alina out of his mind. And no matter how she turned out, the day of the proposal was approaching. It was too late to retreat. All family acquaintances were already aware of the engagement and were looking forward to it. Dmitri had carefully planned everything. Prepared the restaurant, picturesque verandas, invited guests who were to appear unexpectedly after the cherished. Yes, also the acquaintance of the parents was to take place on the same day. All in all, life was boiling and the wedding was getting closer and closer. Vicky's parents bought themselves beautiful outfits for their daughter's engagement party. With the money Dima gave her, Andrei and Galina were the happiest of all. They had already forgotten about any worries about Dmitri's mother. Especially today, they were to see each other and all doubts would be dispelled completely. My love, our daughter is good after all. Dima is better suited for the role of our son-in-law than Oleg. He's a generous and naive romantic, a perfect combination. Galina was looking at her evening makeup in the mirror and talking to her husband. He is a romantic, but he has money. What else do we need to be happy? Andrew fully supported the opinion of his wife. Mom, Dad, I chose us a house in Greece. We'll live there in the winter. While there is snow and frost, all the same, we'll not need to work. We'll think of something like health problems. Vika winked at you, and my father's a smart girl. Yes, I'll get something sick that can't be cured and won't let me work anymore. Andrew grabbed his heart and imitated a heart attack. It's too early to die, honey. Save your acting talents for the children. Galina could not hold back laughter. Daddy, you're so funny. It came out very believable, to be honest. I think Timka will appreciate it. Vika patted her on the shoulder and left the room. For her, this day was supposed to be a surprise. At least that was what Dmitri had planned. And he was sure the guy had no idea that it was not his plan at all. But Vika did not feel sorry for her suitor at all. When she imagined a rich life, she was completely devoid of any sense of compassion. Dmitri was already rushing to the restaurant to arrive there first and check everything out. He wanted everything to go perfectly. He had safely hidden Aliona's phone, so as not to seduce and keep from such a risky venture. It was now absolutely unnecessary to him. He had the beautiful and clever Vika. She was his happy future mother of his children, and simply the closest person in this world. Aliona was just some kind of obsession trying to derail his family ship. Everything is ready. Dmitri Petrovich, the manager of the restaurant, assured the young man that the event will be held on high. Suddenly, among the waiters, Dmitri discerned a familiar, precise figure. The guy was taken aback. Alina. He walked up to the girl and stared at her in surprise. You, Dmitri. I'll send you the hotels tonight. Sorry, I just found a part-time job, so not much time in it. Sorry again. The girl apologized and hurried off, placing the cutlery on the remaining empty ones. For a few tables, Dmitri stood like a man standing still and was afraid to move. He was once again restrained by that treacherously uncomfortable feeling of attraction. Oh, and now Aliona was about to find out that he was getting married. But the guy had to pull himself together because he had been told that Vika had arrived and was already coming up to the veranda. And it is for the best. Better let him know that I'm getting married. At least there would be no more temptation. Guy muttered to himself and went to meet the bride. Vika, more believable love. The actress played the surprise. She happily accepted the ring for several 1 million R, which her mother told her about, with whom, in turn, the groom himself had shared the information. Already all the relatives and friends were gathered. Women and men of all ages were dancing, singing along to guest singers, and eating delicious food from the country's top chefs. The event was flawless. Only Aliona, with bewilderment, looked at the groom, who said he was free and planned to travel alone. Here's the dog, Aliona whispered to her colleague, also a young girl, that she knows this guy. and shared a funny story from the rich. Their quirks marry some people, love others, sleep with others. We don't understand. The waitress shook her hands and went off to serve the next round of luxury drinks. Yes, Alina agreed with these truthful conclusions and also went to the table, red or white. She approached the happy couple and asked a standard working question, white, dry, and you can quickly. Vika was glowing with happiness, but it was noticeable how arrogant she was to the waitress. Sorry, she's pretty drunk already. Yes, bring me a white Sukhoi, please. Dmitri tried to justify his not so friendly. For some reason, it was as if his fiancée Vika had been switched at all. Dmitri did not understand what was going on in the restaurant today. The girl acted extremely defiant, strange, and even in some places inappropriate. He could not believe that it was his Vika, normally so intelligent and kind and cordial. Dear Galina has a very familiar face, don't you think? Did Maria turn to her husband? No, though, wait. Vika's father's name is Andrew, for God's sake. That's right. Peter Sergeyevich clutched his head and went pale. What is it, Petya? Are you ill? The wife was greatly frightened for her beloved husband. You were right, mother. Why didn't I remember it before? It's that family of swindlers who almost went to jail. You immediately suspected something like that. When Dima told us about Vika's family, you know, the man looked at his wife and tried to make her understand through the loud music and the voices of the guests. That's right, Petya. Do you think they're cheating on Dima? Or is it true that Vika has fallen in love with our son? Maria looked at the engaged with hope in her eyes. Young people, who knows them? It's like they weren't involved in any more scams. Let's hope it's all in the past. But we have to tell Dima. I'll talk to him at the office tomorrow. The father was very worried about his child. Suddenly, the glass fell out of Maria's hands and stained her dress. The woman was so nervous that even her hands ceased to obey. Alina ran up to her and offered to help. The girl escorted Maria to the restroom. Take this. Alyona handed the woman a small tube of partial remedy. What is it? Maria Olegovna could not read without her glasses what was written on the label. It's understandable. You are a driver. I always carry it with me in my purse. And you're so clumsy, always somewhere to get dirty. The waitress was embarrassed and lowered her eyes. Oh, thank you, honey. How did you help me out? Maria got rid of the stain. Together with Alina sewed some dress and went back to the hall. She told her husband that a nice girl waitress helped her a lot and that she should definitely thank her. Peter Sergeyevich found Alina and discreetly handed her $5,000. But the girl refused such a generous gesture and made it clear that it was her job to help out the guests. Dima's father insisted, but the waitress was adamant. Then he asked what he could do to replace the money. Alyona simply recommended that he and his wife have a great time at their establishment, and that this would be the best thanks. The man returned and shared his failed outing. Maria smiled and once again admired the lovely waitress. The evening had gone perfectly, not counting the accumulation of Vicky. But Dmitri wrote it off as a surprise, his proposal, and did not take it to heart. The more so, he and his bride were already rushing to her new apartment, which he had prepared as an engagement present. Vicky's intoxication faded as soon as she walked into her beautiful new apartment and received the keys engraved with her name. The girl expected a lot from her rich. You don't get rich, an apartment right away. Before the wedding, she was definitely not prepared for that. Vika was already thinking in her head how her parents would praise her for her success. My darling, I hope you like the renovation. I hired a European designer. The groom gave me a tour of the apartment. This apartment is just wonderful and so big. I can't even count how many rooms it has. Vika rushed to kiss the guy, at the same time looking at the elite living space. 5 rooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 baths, and a huge closet for the hostess. Let this become your personal nest, where you can sometimes relax while on at work. Dima responded by kissing his beloved bride. Personal? Yes, I have prepared another bigger apartment for the two of us. After all, I want the child to have a place to run around." The groom smiled, dreaming of children who would fill their lives with more meaning and love. "How thoughtful you are. As soon as we get married, we'll start making our baby." Vika bored a mean face, playing girl with noble principles of life. "Of course, I think so too. Honey, don't worry. Children only after the wedding. But now we can relax a little." Do you think Daima and Vika had a wonderful night? The groom was very happy to please the bride, and Vika couldn't wait to meet her parents. After all, their praise was very important to her. The next day, Dmitri came to work in a great mood. Peter Sergeyevich was already waiting for his son. In his office, the man did not want to so immediately upset the boy with such painful news. However, hiding such a name with his wife turned out to be a crime. The head of the company gathered his thoughts and asked the secretary to bring them a cup of coffee and began to tell his son everything he knew about his fiancé's family. "Dad, it was, and it was. Nothing like that ever happened again. Anybody can make a mistake. They're living well now, and they don't need to do things like that to make more money." The boy dismissed all of his father's dubious inferences. "Yeah, but they're not doing as well as Vika tells you. I was up all night researching their family situation, got my people involved. Well, I'll tell you, they're all in debt, and sometimes they can't even pay the utility bills for their house." Pyotr Sergeyevich held out papers confirming this fact. "Really? Yes, I can see that. But I guess it was uncomfortable for Vika to tell me that. Maybe we should help them." Dmitri was upset to learn that the parents of his beloved girl might need something. His mother had a different opinion on the matter. His father made himself comfortable in the leather armchair. "What a pop! What are you imagining?" "We're not imagining anything. We want what's best." "Well, your mother suggests we check out Vika and her family." Peter intrigues his son. "Checks, checks, checks, checks. Dad, I love her. I'm not testing anyone," the young man said like he cut it off. "You don't lose anything by cutting off your shoulder. All right, tell me what our mom had in mind." "It's a genius idea. At the wedding you'll say that our family is bankrupt, and we'll confirm with my mother. And if Vika has no doubts at all about marrying you, then you, my dear son, are right and have made a fortune. If she will be shocked and break off the marriage because of it, it's up to you. But it will be revealing. You have nothing to lose if your fiancé doesn't hesitate. You'll say you played a joke on everyone. Will weddings help you get out of this situation?" The father glanced at his son to examine more closely the reaction to the intended test of the gamble. "Good. I am, of course, confident in my future wife. But if Mom really cares so much, let's do it. Her intuition has never failed us before, but hopefully this time it will be different." Dmitri, with a heavy heart, promised his father to plan everything together. He was nervous that Vika might take offense and break up with him forever. However, what if her family was really down right now and they were just trying to pay at his expense? Such thoughts seemed absurd to the guy. But the more he thought about it, the further his imagination took him. To distract himself, Dmitri decided to go out for lunch at a coffee shop not far from his office. When he sat down at a table, he remembered that Alina had sent him hotel options for his vacation. Hotels, of course, did not interest him, but he really wanted to write to her. Dmitri typed a short message from a young employee of the travel agency and part-time waitress, thanking her for the work she had done. He lied that he looked at the hotels and later would tell which one he had chosen. And to start a dialogue, asked a couple of uncomplicated questions. Alyona did not answer anything. The guy kept waiting and waiting, and even back in the office, he looked at the smartphone screen, but to no avail. Curiosity, or maybe the unknown, made him leave his workplace and go to the travel agency. "Hello, where is Alyona?" Daima went into the office, but instead of his acquaintance, he saw another employee. "Hello. Oh, and Alyona no longer works here. My name is Marina. Have a seat." The girl pointed to an empty chair. What do you mean she doesn't work? She just sent me a message this morning with the suitable hotels. The guy was very surprised, stunned by your news. Yes, just an hour ago, I wrote my resignation, and I was urgently summoned. Marina threw up her hands. Where did she go? Do you know where to find her? Dima was saddened. His heart was beating frantically. From some incomprehensible pain, he said he knew nothing. She, coming home, probably had to go back. Or what else? So you will watch the tours. Marina tried to move the conversation in a more workplace to attract customers. No, thank you. I have to go. It's kind of weird. She blurted out as Dima left the office. He heard her words, but paid no attention. His mind was spinning, wondering where Aliona might have gone. He didn't even know where she was from. There was no way to find her. But then the idea came to him to go to the restaurant where the engagement party was held. Aliona was working there part-time and may have gone completely to work there. After all, Dmitri had high hopes for that. However, even there he was given to understand that the girl had quit and no one knew anything about her. Boy, did he panic. His mood dropped to the 0 mark. Of course, he shouldn't care about the travel agency employee. After all, he assumed to be married to Oleg Dima. Decided not to consult, since he already knew exactly what his friend would tell him. Yes, any man would also react negatively to talk about a casual acquaintance. When an engagement ring glistened on the other's hand, while Dmitri was in a state of frustration and did not find himself, Pyotr Sergeyevich and Maria Olegovna were discussing a plan of action for the wedding. The woman breathed a sigh of relief to learn that her son had agreed to the adventure she had invented to expose the family Vika. For some reason, Dmitri's mother didn't even doubt that her daughter-in-law was an absolute swindler. More than once, the sixth sense saved her and her husband from unwanted losses in business and in everyday life, dear. We need to try. Dima does not deserve such a deception in his direction. I am sure of my rightness. Maria crouched close to her husband to calm down a little. Don't worry, darling. We'll do everything the right way, and then as fate decides. I do leave Vika's family a drop of hope, though. The man threw up his hands, since he didn't have the same confidence as his wife. By the way, do you remember the girl from the restaurant, the waitress, who helped me? Maria suddenly changed the subject of the conversation about her son, not to forget to say something important. Yes, dear. What is it? I met her this morning on my way to your office, and she was crying a lot. Poor thing. The woman made a grimace of regret. Did something happen? Did you find out? Don't be sad, my love. Peter tensed up. He did not like it when his wife was nervous, and like a real man wanted to sort everything out at once and solve all the problems. She didn't talk at first. She was very modest, but I convinced her to tell me. Anyway, her mother was sick, and at night she got a call that she had died. The poor girl quit her job and rushed to the train station. I promised her a job at our house as soon as she got back from the funeral from her hometown. She practically kissed my hands in gratitude. Such a well-mannered, unspoiled girl. I hope you don't mind. Maria looked questioningly at her husband. What grief? She's just a young girl. Of course, dear. Let's take her in the kitchen or cleaning. No problem with the salary. I won't hurt her. Pyotr Sergeyevich hugged his kind-hearted wife. Aliona at this time was already on the train to the destination. Was still 4 o'clock. The girl could not stop her tears. Now she was all alone in this world. Her mother had always supported her in all her endeavors, had been a motivator for her. Now there was no one left. It was good that a kind woman, Maria, offered her a job. Especially in a travel agency, it was very difficult to earn money. The salary was very low, and the bonus had yet to be earned. The 2 weeks flew by quickly. Dmitri and Victoria were preparing the last moments for the wedding, which was to take place the following weekend. The young people drove around to different offices, checking to see if everything arrived on time. Vicky's family carried their daughter in their arms. They got their way, And now they were all waiting for them with no money. About Andrei's life, Galina sometimes even woke up at night and asked to pinch each other, proving that everything that was happening was true, not just another fairy tale dream. Galia is our daughter, just a clever girl. She's an amazing actress. She should go to theater school. Andrei was outstanding as an actor in Izvika. Who do you have in mind? Remember me when I was young. Do you think you fell in love with me? Because you wanted to. Yeah, of course I did. I decided right away that you were mine. So I got what I wanted. Galina reminded her husband of the situation when he was to marry his father's partner's daughter. But he ended up getting married to her Fox Willis. Yes, I know. I always liked your grip. It was exactly the kind of wife you deserved to be by my side. Andrew firmly squeezed his wife in his arms. But I am a sucker, you know. And now we have to live with such a reputation. The woman rolled her eyes. If it were not for those idiots, everything would have gone smoothly. They wanted more money, so they ratted us out. But that's in the past. I love you, and I'll be by your side the rest of my life. Yeah, it's like all these bigwigs only earned their 1 million by fair means. It's disgusting. How else did we just decide to rake it in? All at once, all at once, all at once. Go to sleep, my love. The faster, the faster. The wedding day will come. I wish I could fall asleep and wake up. I can't wait till the weekend. Okay, good night. We're good. In the morning, Alina checked in with Maria Olegovna. She did not feel comfortable bothering the woman about her work, but she had no other choice, restarting to look for part-time work. That meant wandering around the countryside. A couple of months until she could save up for a decent place to live. A successful restaurant client promised to help with an apartment. The answer from Maria came quickly. They arranged to meet at her place. Alina arrived just 40 minutes later. The girl was very nervous, but tried to hold on as best she could. She needed this job. The owner of the luxury mansion invited Alina inside. They went into the kitchen to discuss the details of the job. Alina, faithful woman, dispelled the silence. Yes, Maria Olegovna. The girl answered confidently, as she felt the welcoming atmosphere coming from Maria. I am glad you came. I was a little worried that you did not want to accept my offer. The hostess made 2 cups of coffee and then sat down next to her. To be honest, I'm very uncomfortable, but I have no other choice, Alioma said, as it is sincere and without bowing. Then let's discuss what you will do. You know how to cook and clean. Maria watched the shift of the young beauty fondly. I do. My mother taught me how to cook many dishes. The girl turned sharply dark, remembering her parent, who had left quite recently. Honey, calm down. It's okay. I'm sure your mother was always proud of you. You are always ready to help and a thrifty girl. The main thing is to remember her and not to upset her. She looks down from heaven and is happy that you are doing well. And we won't let you get hurt, I promise. Maria put her palm on the poor girl's hand. Thank you. You are very kind. Next, they discussed details about favorite foods, family members, and other necessary information. For quality service, Maria offered Alina a place to stay on their property in the maid's cottage. There were already 2 women there, and the hostess assured her that she would not be bored there. Moreover, 2 experienced ladies will be able to control everything and give advice when it is necessary. Aliona shone, and with happiness, she would not even have to frantically look for accommodation. The girl did not know how to thank this generous and caring woman. However, Maria only smiled. She liked this visiting girl, and her 6th sense had never failed her before. It seemed that a new life was beginning for everyone. Only from the approaching wedding at Dima's parents, the excitement grew and grew. Peter Sergeyevich had already persuaded his employees who had been invited to the wedding to play along. It remained to wait for the celebration itself. Yes, and Dima began to have doubts. Vika was already unashamedly asking for larger and larger sums of money for one thing and another. If she comes from a family with money, This behavior looks, to put it mildly, strange. But all the cards would soon be revealed. So the guy didn't throw his energies into buying up compromising facts. Dima, and after the wedding, let's buy a house for my parents at the sea. Let them live somewhere on the Côte d'Azur. Vika hugged her fiancé and in a thin voice, like a sorcerer, brought him out. And what about your father's work? I think if they wanted to, they would have bought themselves a house on the beach long ago and moved in. The boy put in his place irritably. Too much mercantile behavior from the bride. Well, yeah, you're right, they can afford it. I just thought it would be nice for them to get the house as a gift from their son-in-law. Vika pouted his lips. I already gave your father both the car and the boat. He wanted your mother's jewelry almost every week. That's enough for now. Let's think about our own family. Dimitri rolled over onto his other side and tried to pretend to be asleep. Okay, Vika decided that it was necessary to change tactics. But here's how. She had not yet figured it out. One thing she knew for sure, she had to get as much as possible out of this rich family. No matter what happened next, she should be financially secure, and her parents should be happy to live debt-free. However, it was hard for Vika to play the soulful girl 24/7 days a week. Sometimes her real self still came out of her. Dima wrote it off to excitement before the wedding, since it's the first time they're taking such a step. The guy is holding out hope that his bride will not end up a mercenary con artist who loves him and is poor. The spouse's alone Alina was in harmony with herself. She tidied up her thoughts, set her mind on the fact that she had done all she could for her sick mother, and now she could begin to live for herself. All the more reason for her to have such a wonderful chance, and not at all difficult work, for which they pay decently. She also made friends with two of her colleagues, although they were an order of magnitude older than she was. The women were kind and understanding. Despite some mistakes, the new housekeeper always tried to support her and calmly explain where she was doing something wrong. On Friday, the day before the wedding, Dimitri visited his parents' house. He went to his mother's room, but found no one there. Then the son called her and found out that she would not be home until the evening. The boy was about to leave, but immediately froze in place. In the kitchen of his parents' mansion, standing there was Aliona, who, as if nothing had happened, was cooking something on the stove. Aliona, you're a guy, called the housekeeper in confusion. The girl heard a familiar voice and turned around. Oh, hello. And I kept thinking, Mary Olegovna, is your mother or not? Because you look so similar. It's just that in the restaurant everyone was running back and forth, and I did not figure out who was related to whom at your engagement party. Alina experienced strange feelings at the sight of a young man. On the one hand, she liked him outwardly, but she remembered how he had cheated her at the travel agency, so she did not know how to behave around a rich and shifty man. She didn't want any trouble. What are you doing here? Dimitri still hadn't caught the connection between his house and this young lady. I helped your mother once, and she gave me a job in return. I'm very grateful. She's a wonderful girl you have. Spoke with rapture in her eyes about the lady of the house. But why did you quit the agency? And from the restaurant too. Dimitri asked a question, and then realized that he blurted out. After all, how could he know that she had quit, resigned? How did you know? Aliona stared at the guy with bewilderment. Well, since you're here, you probably quit. So Dima tried to sound confident and not to crack that he followed her. Oh, that's right, you're right. I had to leave town urgently. That's why I quit. Excuse me, I need to trust the soup. Aliona suddenly blinked her eyes and deliberately changed the subject. She no longer wanted to continue the conversation. And why all this communication? Even something else this unfaithful to his bride shocked her, and she would lose her job. But Dima had no intention of backing down. His heart was pounding at the sight of a young cook in an apparatus uniform. He came up behind her and pressed his body against the fragile figure. Aliona tried to break free, but her escape failed. Alionishka, where did you come from? Both mistress and beauty. Dima dipped his nose into her luxurious hair and inhaled the pleasant fragrance emanating from it. "What do you allow yourself?" The girl once again by his hands, releasing all the strong arms. "I do not know. Forgive me, Dmitri," overnight from the arbitrariness of a frightened Alyona and withdrew from the parental home. He got into the car, but could not even start the engine. His body burned with fire. It seemed to him that one more second, and he would have pounced on this so badly maneuvered and his girlfriend. He was getting married tomorrow. Everything was turned upside down in his head. The guy decided to talk it out with his friend Oleg. He drove away from the house and stopped on the side of the road. "Oleg, I'm going crazy." Dmitri did not beat around the bush and just blurted out everything as it is, without exaggerating. "It's the jitters before marriage." Oleg laughed angrily, but soon realized that his friend is not joking at all, and seriously confused. "I almost fell asleep in her lips, almost tore her clothes off and laid her right there on the table. God, what's happening to me?" Dmitri squeezed the steering wheel with all her might. "So brother, don't drive your horses crazy yet. You just have to exhale. Tomorrow you'll get married. You'll see the honeymoon, and everything will be fine. After all, Vika is a better beauty than any of the visiting wiretaps." The insults to Alyona made Dima furious. He said a lot of nasty things to Oleg and hung up. However, his friend was not offended. He only agreed that something was wrong with Dmitri and gave him time to recover. Friday night came quickly. Everyone involved in tomorrow's celebration was on hand. Some in a good sense of the word, and some on the contrary, as if waiting for the inevitable end. Peter Sergeyevich and Maria Olegovna, sitting in the hall, were discussing some of the nuances that might come in handy. At this time, Alyona wore the name Alyonishka tea, very tasty tea, not like the one I ordered that month. Peter Sergeyevich was surprised by the unusual, but such a soothing taste of the drink. "Excuse me, I added some forest herbs according to my mother's recipe. I noticed you were very excited. And these ingredients are great for reducing anxiety. There you go." "Thank you." Chuckles. "That's very helpful. You're very attentive. Sit down, chat, treat yourself to cakes." Peter Sergeyevich pointed the girl to the seat next to his beloved wife. "Oh, come on. Come on, let's land. Because the driver told me that you were on your feet all day, and you even managed to feed the cats you've caught. You have a good heart." The men found support and approval from Maria Olegovna. The owners of the house told their new employee about the plans for tomorrow. For some reason, Maria trusted the young beauty 100% and even wanted to hear her opinion about the impending adventure. Pauline was surprised that such successful, influential people would share the most candid things with her. However, the girl took a neutral position, not wanting to pry into the life of another man's family. This pleased Pyotr Sergeyevich very much. He praised the employee for her good upbringing. Soon, Peter went to bed, and Maria and Alyona were left alone. "Alyonishka, do you have a boyfriend?" Suddenly, the woman stunned Alina with such a tactless question. "No." The girl was embarrassed. "I wish I had such a daughter-in-law. I would have carried you in my arms." Maria smiled and scurried off to the bedroom. "Rest, my girl. We have a hard day tomorrow." Alina for a long time scrolled in his head, said the phrase she could not believe that the rich, successful mother could want for his son a simple guest girl who has no house, no car, no beautiful branded clothes. So the day of the long-awaited wedding came. Guests came from all over the country and even from abroad. The best makeup artists in town did the makeup on Vicky's face, and the girl's parents made sure everything went smoothly. The groom was in confusion. He could not think of anything except the dotted figure of Alina standing by the stove. He wanted to feel her warmth and fragrance again. The guy tried to put these delusional thoughts out of his head, but all was in vain. Still, he had to concentrate on the celebration, because he did not want to fail the experiment that was being prepared. If Vika turns out to be an honest girl, he would do everything to forget Alina and start a happy family life. Dmitri put on his oldest unsightly suit, not the one they had chosen together with the bride, but a completely different one, which he was advised to wear by Maria Olegovna. For completeness of the picture, as they say, Dima rings I will bring. Pyotr Sergeyevich called his son to run through some important points. Good took those for 2,000. Dima laughed. And the expensive ones are also at the ready. Let fate decide everything. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you, son. The father was lukewarm, hope for a happy outcome. But his wife and her intuition kept convincing him otherwise. Victoria and her parents had already left for the registry office. Their family had not felt so elated. Probably 10 years soon all the misery would be over, and they would come out of the shadows. Andrei and Galina kissed their daughter and even shed a tear. Don't cry for the ceremony. Vika rolled her eyes. Sorry, daughter, but we have waited so long for this day. And here it is today in a matter of minutes, and you will be rich. Galina raised a glass of champagne to you, Kolya. Andrei supported the toast. All the guests were assembled. The bride and groom were to meet right outside the registry office. Dmitri's car showed up on the horizon. Vika was looking at the dowel in anticipation. The car door opened, and the groom showed his face to all the guests. Many opened their jaws. Some froze on the spot with bewilderment. Vika, still in shock, looked at Dima and did not understand what was happening. Honey, I'm sorry. I have something to say. The groom approached his future wife. Why are you dressed in this rag? Where are the brand name suits? What did we choose? She whispered in the guy's ear. Wait a minute. Attention. Dear guests, I'm very glad you all came. Mom, Dad, can I ask you to come up? Dmitri called Maria and Peter, and they went up the beautiful stairs, standing with their son and his bride. Dear Vika, yesterday the unexpected happened. My father's company, where I work, went completely bankrupt. I was left with a pile of debts, but in spite of that, I hope that you love me and support me. We may not live well, but I'll do everything I can to get back on my feet and get rich. Dima leaned over to Vika and wanted to kiss her, but she wrinkled her nose to celebrate her son. May I continue? Pyotr Sergeyevich has taken all the attention of our dear guests. The celebration will be held at the highest level. Don't worry. We have big business problems, but don't doubt that you'll remember today for a long time. We'll have a lot of fun. The banquet's prepaid. You can have all the fun you want. However, before he had finished his speech, Vika threw the bridal bouquet in the groom's face and hurried to leave the event. She ran down the stairs, took her mother by the hand, and headed for the parking lot, where cab drivers were waiting for clients. Darling, where are you going? Dima shouted after the fleeing bride. Fuck you. Who needs you? Without money. Dude is a total dude. Vika threw a few more insults in the direction of the unsuccessful fiancé and hopped into a cab with her parents. Pyotr Sergeyevich patted his son on the shoulder and tried to bring him to his senses. However, for some reason, Dmitri was not hurt at all. He even felt a kind of relief. Maria hugged her son, but said nothing. They understood each other without words. Once again, the woman impressed everyone with her infallible sixth sense and unsurpassed intuition. The guests were explained that it was just a practical joke, but they were the only ones who could judge for themselves. One of the guests on the bride's side called Vika and informed her that she had been tricked, that the whole thing was a farce. Andrew immediately ordered the cab driver to turn the car around and drive them back. The three of them fell out of the cab and rushed to catch up with the groom. Galina, with a smile on her face, tried to explain to Dima that they had also played a trick on him and had no intention to go far. They just wanted the wedding to be unusual, so they decided on such a step. Andrei also sucked up to the guy, grabbed his hand, but all persuasion failed miserably. Pyotr Sergeyevich asked the family of swindlers to leave immediately and never to appear in their lives again. The smiles on Galina Andrei's face were replaced by sad grimaces. They frantically threw themselves at Dmitri's feet asking him to forgive them. Vika, too, hung around her fiance's neck and covered him chaotically with kisses. I call the police. Peter made it clear to the crooks that if they didn't back off nicely, he would have to take more serious measures. Yeah, burn in hell for the rest of your lives. You're all just worthless people. Andrew started to back away, but his anger wouldn't let him get away. Silently, for sure. Brainless dumbasses. May your Dima never marry. What kind of a sissy? He was easy to fool. Didn't even have to do anything. He gave us gifts and money himself. Fool. Galina followed her husband's example. Choke on that money. Dmitri took some bills out of his pocket and threw them to the worthless family. Vika ran to collect the money. She didn't care what anyone thought of her. So already things were worse than ever. And here was an opportunity to at least buy myself a couple of new dresses with free money. The guests dispersed. Everyone was sympathetic to the situation. There were no unnecessary questions. Dmitri went home with his parents. He did not want to be alone right now. Yes, and the prospect of meeting Alyona did not give the guy any peace. He only now realized how much he had fallen in love with this girl. Now he did not have to restrain himself. He could calmly start courting Lena. But the only thing was, did she like him for it? Dima did not know. Alenushka set the table. Maria decided to sit with her husband and son for a while and celebrate their successful experiment. Okay, I'll do everything now. Don't forget the wine and wait for you at the table. It will be just me, Pyotr, and Dima, so don't be shy. The woman invited the surprised girls to join their unplanned feast. Alyona went down to the cellar with a link. It was quite chilly in the room, and she felt her body begin to shake. This is where Dima finally came in. Found the housekeeper he'd been looking for all over the mansion. Oh, you scared me. Alyona jumped with fright. Don't be afraid, it's just me. Can you address me as you? Or do I look so old? Dmitri was moving closer to the girl, and she was moving back more and more. If that's what you want, of course it is. I certainly feel like it. Dmitri reached the ultimate intimacy with Alina. I'm sorry, but I have to take the wine. Your mother asked me to set the table. The girl tried to pull away. It's all right. The wine's not going anywhere. Togo. Dima laughed as he noticed that Alina wants to escape from the cellar. Can I go? The girl lifted her face to look into the guy's eyes and hear the answer. But suddenly, he kissed her on the lips. Yes, so that she almost fainted from her supreme feelings. Alyona decided not to resist. She wanted it herself, though she did not admit it even to herself. But back then on the sidewalk, where they first met, it was as if she knew that this man would appear in her fate and play an important role in it. The kiss lasted a long time. It was sweet and tart at the same time, like the wine around the Milan. Did you find the right bottles? Maria Olegovna went into the cellar and saw the young people, embarrassed, tossed away from each other. Oh my goodness, I stirred. The woman was happy to behold such a playful picture of her soul. Maria returned to her husband and told him what had happened. Peter also took the news very well. Anna, dreaming of a new daughter-in-law. A few minutes later, the family gathered around the table. Alina's cheeks were burning. The girl behaved shyly. Pyotr Sergeyevich noticed this, so he called her to help him in the kitchen. The owner of the house asked the girl to cut the cheese, and he himself stood next to her and quietly leaned toward her. Alyonishka, do not worry. Our son is not a slut and not a womanizer. Ever since he was a little boy, he achieved everything on his own. Dima has never offended any girl. Believe me, he'll make the best husband. Excuse me. Alyona took her eyes out of her bewilderment. Yes, yes. We will not give you offense. Maria, we really liked you. So honey, don't push our son away. Give him a chance. Peter patted Elena on the shoulder and left the kitchen. The girl returned to the table. Dima sat down beside her. After a small dinner, Pyotr and Maria announced that they wanted to go on a date. They could not wait for them until morning. Of course, both Daima and Aliona realized that they just wanted to leave the young people alone. "Excuse me, but there's still dessert. I cooked it for you." Aliona jumped up from the table and was about to ran to get the treats. "Wait, honey, we're going to the restaurant, so let's go without us." Maria stopped the girl and sat her back to her son. A year had passed. Daima and Aliona were already husband and wife. The wedding, the girl wanted modest, and Dmitri's parents, and did not insist on a grand event. After all, the most important thing is that their son got a truly caring and loving wife. Alina did not splurge money, did not buy up all the expensive outfits. She was not spoiled by bank accounts and mansions on the Kutdozer. She was modest, well-mannered, and has remained so. During pregnancy, Alina blossomed even more. Maria Olegovna and Pyotr Sergeyevich were like newlywed parents to their daughter-in-law, who would never let anyone hurt their beloved Alina. And their grandson Maximka united them, and the close-knit family even more. And no hardships could stop them from being happy and enjoying life.